So everyone at the moment is thinking about AI and what does an AI transformation of their business look like? And the question I have for you is, will your AI transformation succumb and fall victim to the productivity paradox that so many other transformations have fallen victim to? So the productivity paradox was coined by this economist, Robert Solow, in the 1980s. And he was talking about programmable computers. He was saying, look, why is it that for a decade or so, all these businesses have been investing in programmable computers and yet the productivity is going down? Why this investment should actually reduce productivity when it should be going up? And what he argued is that it's only when businesses transform themselves around what is unique about programmable computers rather than just tinkering on the edges. So for example, he talked about the way that airlines embrace things like air miles. You know, that was different. It wasn't possible without programmable computers. And the analogy he gave from the past is in the 19th century, the movement from steam to electrical motors. And so electrical motors became available in the latter half of the 19th century. And until then, everything was run, all the factories were run to maintain these big steam engines, these big sort of huge things that need to be maintained and sort of, you know, housed in these big factories. And any business, any early innovator in the 19th century that said, well, we'll tinker on the edges with some electrical motors. They'd buy an electrical motor and try and maybe replace a part of the step and sort of leave it on the side here. And of course, productivity went down because they had to hire a whole new bunch of people to maintain the electrical motor. They had to sort of figure out how to use it, change process, and at the same time they were still organising their whole business and factory and supply chain around these big steam engines. And it was only really someone like Henry Ford who in the early 20th century really started to understand that the opportunity with electrical motors is that you can fundamentally reorganize the production line. And so do away with all of those crazy big steam engines and actually create a production line, which famously in the automotive industry produced a 400% efficiency. Similarly, we see the same thing with e-commerce over the last couple of decades. It was only really people like Bezos who understood, like Ford understood, that the real opportunity was to build a business around what is unique about e-commerce, not just tinker on the sides. So many of the big traditional retailers, what they really did is, sure, they might have a transaction capability on a website, but actually the fulfillment was just some guy with a trolley walking around taking things off the shelf. They weren't reorganizing their business around that capability. And it's only really, I think, post-COVID, where e-commerce has really embraced what is unique about e-commerce itself, rather than just putting it on the side, like putting a little electrical motor on the side of a steam engine. And similarly with AI, now we're faced with a situation where we have this new technology. Some early innovators in business are playing with it, trying to understand it. But at the moment, a lot of it still feels like we're just putting it on the side of the business and tinkering and not fundamentally changing anything, not fundamentally thinking about how can we reorganize our supply chains, the way we communicate with customers, what is unique about AI that will give us a competitive advantage. And for those traditional businesses out there that don't want to lose out to the new startups in the AI space who are going to be doing things differently, the way Bezos did it differently in retail or the way Henry Ford did it differently in automotive, then they're going to have to think not just about tinkering on the edges, but a fundamental reorganization of their business model and their cost model in order to embrace what is unique and special about AI.